what's happening on Parliament Hill. We've seen that in the Ontario elections, where they've been campaigning on how to make life more affordable for Canadians as interest rates are increasing, and Bank of Canada is scheduled to do more this year. Well, there is, based on a Manulife debt survey, it reveals 1 in 4 Canadians, homeowners, say that if the interest rates increase, that they might be forced to sell their home. So that's a quite significant number. That's 1 in 4. That's a quarter of the people who were, and when you do surveys, essentially because it's a random survey, then it's a consensus of the population of how they feel when it comes to life here in Canada. And this survey releasing that because of the interest rate increases, and if there's further increases, which we know there will be, as the Bank of Canada governor has said that they will increase it as much as they need to be able to get in front of inflation, and as it's at the all-time highest and it's looking to increase. The target rate of it is 2%, and we're way far past that in threefolds of that number. So Bank of Canada is saying that it's not likely that we'll go down to the 2% mark until next year, and therefore they're going to be increasing the interest rate to monitor inflation. And now, potentially, since there is speculation that this might lead to a recession, given that there's fewer goods and there's been an influx of money circulating, and the backlogs in supply chains, and what's been happening, that there's a lot of speculation that a recession's around the corner. So what does it mean for people who took on a massive debt in 2020, 2021, if to be able to buy a home when it was next to nothing to be able to borrow money? Well, they're saying that they feel the pinch as everything has become a lot more expensive, just the day-to-day items when it comes to groceries, gas, just to be able to get around, and that's just for survival. But now, in terms of being able to pay their debt, to be able to pay their mortgage with interest rates going up, so to sell their home. And we know that as of yesterday, the Desjardins that made a release that potentially house prices, because of interest rates increasing, might drop in value, and based on where you live, it might affect what how much the price of the home will drop by. So according to the survey, they're saying that they'd be forced to sell it, and when it comes to indebted Canadians, more likely to report debt is causing them stress, with close to half saying it's negatively impacting their mental health, according to the survey. And of course, what that means is not knowing how to make their ends meet when it comes to the end of the month, and knowing that whatever income they have, as their income hasn't increased, well, the cost of living has. And if we're looking at when they go to renew their mortgage in about 5 years, well, the Desjardins report was saying that essentially in about 5-year time, if you took out a mortgage in 2021, by 2026, well, you're looking at being further in debt and not being able to make those mortgage payments, where it could go up to at least $1,000 a month on $1 million. So that's quite significant in what's happening when it comes to homeowners. And of course, that's affecting when it comes to the rental market as well, where in previous studies, where it's shown that, of course, when it comes, an Abacus poll has released when it comes to Toronto renters, well, they're saying they have to choose between food or paying their rent. So it's a domino effect. It's not just homeowners, but essentially when it comes to the rental market and when it comes to affordability and housing affordability. Now, these are things that people are looking to government to see what their solution is, and it's very easy to say, well, supply is something that's needed to be able to increase the supply, so there's the ability of people not overpaying for what is limited in terms of quantity of homes, inventory. But when it comes to the supply side, that's a long-term solution, as how many houses can be built. We know that the PCs came into a supermajority in the last election, where they went from 76 seats in 2018, and in the 2022 election that just took place on June 2nd, they got 83 seats. But we know that they said they're planning on 1.5 million homes in 10 years. Well, that's 1.5 million homes in 10 years for supply. And so some of the advocates in the area are saying, well, okay, if that's the case, what do we do in the short term? Is it, what's the solution for when it comes to rental? Is it rent control? What's the short term when it comes to being able to buy your first home, or to be able to keep your home with the interest rates increasing and the likelihood of paying a higher mortgage rate? And where does that income come from? Is it about that people need to make 20, 30% more on their income to be able to afford their lifestyle? And how is that possible when it comes to businesses that have a high overhead? So there's all those questions, and it's about what's the solution. And here we have, when it comes to on a federal level, well, we have the Conservative leadership election that's taking place, and we know that Pierre Poilievre has been heavily campaigning on gatekeepers and how it's affected the quality of life of Canadians. And he has been attracting hundreds to thousands of people at his rallies who are hearing him speak about him firing the Bank of Canada governor when it comes to them, what they've done when it comes to interest rates in the last 2 years, which has created the onset of what you're seeing with inflation and unaffordability. So you have you have MPs and you have political candidates who are actively talking about these issues and what that means when it comes to affordability. Now, when it comes to the Trudeau government, this is something that has been asked of them quite frequently about how to address affordability. We know that, when it comes to gas prices, well, Canada could be one of the world suppliers, and that's something that's been of a discussion of late. But when it comes to even gas prices and people saying just to be able to get around, as now they're called to go back to work. No longer are they able to work from home, and employers have been asking people to go back into the office. Well, people are saying, well, I have to fill up my gas, and gas is now, hundreds of dollars more expensive. What it used to cost about, $80 to fill up your tank, or $60 is now over $100. Now we've passed the $2 a liter mark when it comes to filling up gas. So, and when it comes to a federal level, well, the argument there was did you need to have the gas tax increase, the carbon tax that was just increased to 11 cents a liter come April 1st. So those are all parts of the debate of what happens in Ottawa, with opposition leaders asking our government, how do you make life more affordable? So this is something that we're tracking. We've been talking about for quite some time, and we're looking for solutions. And you want to join in on YuppTV Political Sensex, as we're going to cover in detail what our politicians are doing and what they're debating about when it comes to, the House of Commons, or soon enough when it comes to Queen's Park going back to work, when early next month when the cabinet is announced. We want to know what their priority, what their agenda is in terms of how to address this crisis that Canadians are feeling, and more specifically when it comes to Ontarians and, with most expensive cities. Last week we covered the top 8 countries, and in those 8 countries there was about 92 cities that were categorized in the most expensive to live in the top 10. And in the top 10, 2 of the Canadian cities were on there. There was Toronto on there, and there was Vancouver. Toronto coming in 10th place and Vancouver coming in 3rd place. Essentially, that is, and if you can imagine, other countries on the list were Australia, United Kingdom, Canada, United States. You're talking about Los Angeles being less expensive than Vancouver. If you can imagine, living in California is less expensive than living in Vancouver, British Columbia. And that is the state of affairs right now, living in Canada, and the crisis when it comes to housing, when it comes to affordability, when it comes to basic day-to-day living. And we're not even talking about luxury items. We're talking about being able to afford food, being able to pay your mortgage or your rent. So those are top of mind, and we'll be tracking on what our officials who we elect to have big ideas and to do things for Canada when it comes to making laws and making sense and directing our country down a path that is prosperous, that is safe. All those things that we require of our government officials, when we give them a 4-year mandate, those are the things we'll be tracking, and those are the questions we'll be asking.